We're going to get started right now. We're going to begin on the floor. So I invite you to come into the floor, bring your back to the floor. We're going to have a really fun class that begins on the floor, moves to a mid-level, and then stands with really integrating everything that we're doing today into basic lunge patterns. So I look forward to being on this journey with you. Now remember, anything that I guide today is simply that, as a guide. So if what I am offering doesn't quite work for your body, please make the adjustments and find the appropriate transitions that work with you. And in somatic groundwork, we call this making agreements. This is really a practice of your body, making agreements with you as we move together. I'm going to take my voice out for 1 minute here so that you can begin to tune in to your presence, tune into your body, and tune into your relationship with the floor and the space around you. And if it's available to you as you're connecting with the floor, to drop down below whatever the surface is, maybe it's wood floor or carpet, drop down below the subfloor. If you're on a second floor, drop down all the way to where your structure meets the earth. So below the foundation and down into where all of the life forms are that are creating networks of communication. And perhaps imagining these networks of communication then being what is connecting us, no matter where we are on the planet in this moment, in whatever time, in whatever space. For the next few minutes, I'm going to guide 2 different breath qualities. And again, if this isn't something that is working for you today, then know we'll be here for a few minutes before we're moving on, and to make sure that you're taking care and tending to yourself. So expansion breath is something common teaching in somatic groundwork. Let's begin tracking that. And typically a good initiation for this breath is to begin noticing the air moving through your nose, how this air then moves through your throat, down into the expanses of your own inner body. The thing here with expansion breath is begin noticing the sensation of shape shifting within you as you inhale. This is a good time to place hands on your body right above your pelvic bones or on your belly or right under your rib cage, for example. And then on the out breath, also following that pathway, but now it's from inner body out through nose or mouth, back into the space around you. And tuning into what shifts in you with your out breath. So taking 3 or 4 breaths here, I'm going to take my voice out as you follow the inhale expansion and the exhale condensing through the sensations from your inner body. These are subtle movements, so we want to be careful not to be kind of straining or forcing movement. There's a witnessing quality of our mind as we observe the rise and fall of our breathing here. And often something we talk about here with expansion breathing is the connection to the auxetic properties of tissues, but really this is a property of life itself. This was shown to us as a pattern from the Big Bang. It's the in and the out, the give and the receive, the moving away from, the coming back towards, the push and the pull, the attraction, the repulsion. So 1 or 2 more breaths here, coming into that full body experience of expanding and condensing in multiple ranges, multiple directions, and how this influences the whole of you. Or you could take this down to a micro level and come into the cell and experience this in a different fractalization. Now from here, I want to offer a different quality of breath. I'm going to call this the stiffening breath today. And this is something that I invite you to kind of play with and explore as we do full body movements today. So again, hands above pelvis, base of rib cage, side of body, somewhere where you can have a tactile sense of your breath moving. And as you breathe in, pause right at the edge of that inhale and notice that subtle pushback into your hands from somewhere. So for me, I'm right above have hands right above my right pelvic bone. And as I breathe in, the movement of the diaphragm, I can feel as a subtle pushback right into my fingertips, and then my left hand is at the base of my ribs. And I notice the expansion there of my rib case. Pausing at the end of that inhale, push out just a little bit more and notice what you need to do inside your body to facilitate a pushing out. And then see if you can maintain that contact even as you exhale. So breathing in, sensing into the expansion. And then as you exhale, see if you can maintain that subtle push out. And this is what I'm going to call there's a stiffening that occurs in order to maintain that. And then as you breathe in again, you might feel that fullest kind of push out. See if you can maintain it. What do you need to do inside of yourself? Right now, I'm noticing, for example, a lot of pelvic floor kind of work or action as I maintain this stiffening. Now, another way to get after this is to do a subtle or like a small cough with your hands on your body, and notice what your inner spaces do as you do that cough, or you do that very kind of direct and forceful exhale sound. And you'll notice that there's this little push out and there's a stiffening of your entire container. And so what we're looking at in this stiffening breath is to be able to maintain this support, which is really intra-abdominal pressure, by working with our breath. And I'll give one more cue for this, and then we'll let this go and see how this kind of transpires in your practice. As we breathe in, our diaphragm descends down, and the volume within our intra-abdominal cavity changes, becomes less. So the pressure increases there. If you're able to track the movement of your diaphragm, another way to think about this is on your exhale, seeing if you can leave the diaphragm in that descended place. Now it's still going to move up, right? The diaphragm's still going to move, but it's kind of like a little bit of an experiment. I breathe in, my diaphragm descends down, I sense the expansion. And as I exhale, I'm going to imagine leaving the diaphragm there. And notice what kind of stiffening occurs within you as you do that. And when you're ready, letting all of that go, kind of the mental work go. And as we practice today, if you're interested in oscillation between expansion breath and the stiffening breath, and your body often will be very reflexive in organizing that. So you might even just tune into those subtle shifts in your inner spaces. All right, so bringing arms out to the side a little bit, we're going to do a rotational thigh lift here. So if these are patterns that you want to investigate more, I recommend going back to home series, looking at thigh lift and knee drop. This is a progression on some of those teachings. I'm going to bring the right knee up and over to the side so it touches the floor. And my left leg is pushing a little bit and left hip is up. And then I'm going to initiate with my toe across my body, lower body twist. I'm going to bring my knee back to the right side where it started. I've got that left hip now standing and up again and back to where it started. Okay, so knee initiation on the other side, left. Toe goes across, easy lower body twist. Left knee comes back to the floor and lowering down. Now you might not be able to get your knee all the way to the floor depending on your range of motion right now, and that's okay. So again, make those adjustments. What I encourage you to do is to find this pattern maybe a few times with a little bit of a slow study, and then see what kind of flow you can bring into this rotation and lower body twist. Also, the push through your standing leg, that's going to become something we're going to focus on with our lunging patterns, which is really asymmetrical. So you could initiate with the knee out to the side, or you could initiate with a push and then a knee out to the side, or together. So 6 more times, alternating right and left side. Finding the ease, the support with the floor. And connecting with your breath as part of the pattern. I have 2 more to go. Oh, and I'm continuously kind of shaking my head a little bit on the floor to release any tension that might creep up into my chest or jaw. Okay, so let's move on to a second pattern. I'm going to do 3 in a row, and then we're going to put them together as a phrase. So this next one is very similar, except for the leg is going to be extended. So instead of my knee reaching to the right side, I'm going to lift my toes up. I'm actually going to stiffen around my knee. I'm going to take my knee out to the side. Again, really feeling a strong sense of left leg push and sole of the foot into the floor. And then I'm going to take my big toe across my midline. And I have another lower body twist, but now with an extended leg. And then rolling point of contact across my sacrum. I take the toe back to the tap on the side of my body. And then easy fold back to 2 standing feet. Let's talk that through on the other side. So toe comes out to the side, I'm on my left. Big toe swipes across midline, lower body twist. Rolling point of contact initiation across the back body. Left toe comes back to the side, standing right leg, and easy folding. So once you have the sense of that, then move into, again, about 6 or so alternating right, left with flow and ease. So we're moving towards that teaching of least amount of effort for the job. Especially in this one, I notice how the stiffening breath is very helpful for me to tune into. And I have one more. And I'm recovering out of that. All right, one more pattern here, which is leg swing. So leg swing starts with a knee drop to the side. So I'm going to knee drop to the right, release my left leg, and draw a little arc with my toe on the floor. So my foot stays on the floor the whole time. And then to come out of this, I retrace that arc and heel reaches back up towards my sits bone. Knee drop to the left, release the top leg. I have this wonderful swing. I retrace that, knee or heel tucks back up, I'm on 2 legs. Knee drop, swing, swing, return. Knee drop, swing, swing, return. Now with this one, the tempo really of a musical swing might be helpful to keep in mind. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, swing out and swing back and swing out. 6 more. And once you're done with those 6, feet back underneath you. Take a moment to return to your yielding from which we started. Expansion breath. All right, so what I'd like to do here then are these 3 patterns back to back as one big phrase. So we have folded knee, rotational thigh lift, and then this extended knee rotation, and then leg swings. Let's do right, left, 6 of each, and then we'll take another settle. Again, finding the tempo that works for you, but see about really finding this flow and this kind of the wave-like motion from one side to the other. So I'll talk through a few of the first here as I begin. Knee, rotation, knee, and close. Now I'm on my left knee tap, lower body twist. Left knee, there's 2, and do 6 total, I'm on 3. And this is my last one with the bent knee. And my right toe reaches up, stiff knee, big toe across, toe back to the right side, right foot, left, twist, left reach. 4 more here. And I'm on my last one. And leg swings, there's one. Knee drop, there's two. And three. And after you finish that phrase, allowing your body to settle and or see what your body might need. Oh, pandiculation for me. And we're going to take ourselves up to kneeling. I'm going to roll one leg over me like a smoking star to come to my belly. So this is the transition that I'm taking up to kneeling. You can follow me if you'd like. And I'm propped up on my elbows, giving my eyes and nervous system a chance for a perceptual shift into the next level. And I'm going to take hands by my shoulders, push myself up to a kneeling position. And take another, 30 seconds or so, a couple of breaths here to bring yourself into this next position, whatever you might need to come into kneeling. Now we are going to be working on knees here. So if you need something underneath your knees, this is a good time to grab it, a blanket or a rolled up yoga mat. I'm on carpet, so I'm okay. But if I wasn't on carpet, I might be taking a rolled up yoga mat. So imagine that you're standing, but instead of standing on your feet, you're standing on your knees. So give yourself a chance to really tune into how your lower legs now are your feet, all the way into your toes. And your legs are kind of like knee up. What kind of different information do you get about organization around your pelvis and pelvis with legs and pelvis with spine, and how your shoulders are then riding on top of this? I know since I asked these questions, I'm doing a little bit of shifting back and forth. And then when you're ready, settling into stillness, into the verticality here of your knees. And if you haven't had a chance to yet, a few moments of orienting to the space with your eyes around you, and especially twisting behind you, looking down and looking up, both to the right and the left. One thing that often happens is when we learn new things, we sometimes lose awareness or a sense of our visual field that we're actually seeing. And we kind of get this like blackout thing happening in our eyes, even though they're open. So as you're learning today with yourself, keep checking back in that you're also seeing, right? So you can have this full embodied integration of the patterning that you're working with. All right, so squat from here, hips go back. And then pushing through your full foot, which is the whole surface of your shin, down your ankles into your toes. Right, so I take my hips back just like I would in the squat. I'm not going all the way down. I'm leaving probably about 4 inches or so from my heels. I'm noticing what kind of support that I need here in this hovering place. And then I'm really working with the push from this long leg that I have here. I feel like some kind of sea creature right now. And up. And let's do this about 10 times. So here's one. Checking into your own organization here and making any shifts or focusing on places to study that you find interesting as you go. So I mentioned studying the push. You could also study again your breathing. Something that's very clear for me too here is the support of pelvic floor into full body motion. You might study your range. And after you've done 10 or so, then come out of it, legs long in front of you, come off of your knees, and maybe easy, kind of like a seated knee drop or some version of easy mobility. And we're going to do that one more time. So coming back up to knees. 10 more of these. That's my 5. I'm going to put my hands behind my head, a little bit different feedback to my shoulder girdle when I do that. And as per usual, I usually lose count, but that's about 10. And again, coming out of that, once you've done 10 or so, finding an easy mobility, just a different position. You might want to go long legs. Let's see what your body needs. You know, I think about there's unwinding practices where we work directly with tissue, but then I also think about how a full somatic groundwork class, the whole class is an unwinding process, you know? All right, so back to knees. Just myself here. All right, and let's look with step outs. This will be our first lunge for the day. I'm gonna transition my weight to my right side so I can step my left leg in front of me. Now, I kind of just gave a really big cue away for how to make this work for you. Your weight has to shift. So I'm doing step outs with my left foot. So left lunging, right? Weight really has to shift. Your center of gravity needs to move over than your right knee, and then check into that whole support again of your shin and your foot, be able to swing this leg out. Now, you could do this in a kind of a 1 count and then back. Or if you really want to study your stability, take it way slow and notice where it is that you're challenged. Now, one more thing that I want to say about this is I'm really finding that my hip that's swinging into lunge, so my left hip externally rotates, or it goes out and around the corner, right? It's not sweeping directly through. I transition my weight. I get a little bit of abduction. For those of you that are interested in joint actions, a little bit of abduction in my left side, and then I can swing it around a step. And I follow that same pathway back. All right, and let that side go. Let's move to the other side. Same thing, shifting your weight now to the left. Immediately, I notice how different my right and my left sides are based on my ability to coordinate a shift. So you might check in with your own self about that. I really like this exercise too, because the weight shift happens, you know, it's like I shift to one leg, I lunge, I feel now I'm balanced on both. I push out of my front leg to come back. There's a shifting again, 2 knees hit the floor, and my balance changes. So it's a moving center, right? Allowing yourself to move and to shift. All right, we're gonna do another one in a different plane of motion, but first of all, I'm gonna tuck my toes under and I'm gonna go into a forward fold, just kind of as an interval between the two. So I invite you to do the same thing, or again, maybe the seated knee drops as we were doing. Or something else. All right, so let's step into what I call the kneeling warrior 2. So instead of moving my lunge to the front of me, I'm gonna move my lunge to the side of me. Now, when I move my lunge to the side of me, one helpful initiation point is the knee. So I move to the side, and this time, instead of my hip going into external rotation, I notice that my knee actually comes in a little bit first. It scoops in towards my midline to then arc out. So it's really helpful for me to follow the spatial pathway of my knee. And I'm also seeing if I can constrain the position of bony pelvis so that it's not moving all around. So I'm really emphasizing the movement of my hip. Okay, and after you've done that a few times, let's go to the other side. So this is me left leg stepping out. And again, this teetering of weight shifting, right? Allowing your weight to shift, but you have a verticality of the rest of you, right? Everything pelvis and above is riding on top of legs. All right, and again, taking a little interval there. We're gonna do one more set of combining all of those. Working with your body in whatever posture or movements it's asking for. I'm noticing also now that my circulation has shifted, there's a lot more heat in my body, there's a tissue quality change in my body. I really like that. All right, so let's do like a kneeling step out lunge. So from knees, right foot forward and back, left foot forward and back, right foot out and back, left foot out and back, right? So 4, basically one of each. So right foot front and back, left foot front and back, right foot to the side and back, left foot to the side. Repeat that 3 more times. I'm on round 3. Checking into your eyes, your sight. And after you're done with your 4 rounds, this might be a good time to take a full yielding back into the floor if you'd like. I'd recommend doing that if you want some integration or to your belly. Otherwise, listening to your body in terms of any tissue expansion or mobility that you might want to work with. Now I'm going to guide a way to come up out of the floor from kneeling, but if you feel like you're done, if your knees are done being in this folded position, then come out of the floor in your own way, and we'll meet you there. So I'm on knees, I take my hips back, and I'm going to find my full seat here. So before we were doing more of that kind of squat pattern, I actually come all the way back to seated. However, as I'm coming all the way back to seated, I am not letting my weight settle into my lower legs. I'm facilitating a push from the ground. I feel a buoyancy in my pelvic floor, and I actually have a lot of work in my thighs right now. Right, so I'm seeing, okay, what do I need to do to be ready in this sit? Yeah, so try that a few times, moving from kneeling stance to a readiness to sit. And then the next thing would be is that as you sit back, tucking your toes under and transitioning your weight over your toes, right? So I'm sitting back, toes, tail back, I get into my feet. Now you could use your hands to help support this as well. A good place for using hands would be from kneeling. As I sit back, I place my hands on the floor, I tuck my toes, and I push with my hands to help me get to feet. Without hands, it's really a matter of tempo and where your reach is. And then when you're ready, coming all the way up to standing. Yeah, and once you're in standing, a little lightweight bouncing, Standing yield. After all that really strong thigh work, my body's actually asking for a little bit of walking kind of in the space, front and back, side to side. Wonderful, everyone. Exactly. Practicing our body. All right, so taking our feet a little bit wider than shoulders and soft ankles, soft knees, beginning a really easy lateral shift from side to side. We were just doing quite a bit of this lateral shifting in our kneeling to lunge. Okay, so connect that same transfer of weight, but now you're standing on your feet. And then allow that to come to a single leg. Oh, and then transfer weight, single leg. Once you get to a single leg, find what it takes to settle. Check into your eyes. And choose which leg you'd like to start on with some hip mobility. I'm standing on my right leg. And I'm gonna let my left knee bend, and my knees are by one another. Now I'm gonna take my left knee forward, out to the side, and back, and then back in. Forward, out to the side, take it back behind me, then I rotate it in, so my heel kicks out. Start small here. So we're doing some hip mobility in this full rotational circumference available to us in the hip. But again, constrain the pelvis. And if you notice any kind of weird clicks or tension patterns, things that aren't really very comfortable, change your range of motion or slow it down. All right, shake that leg out. Let's go to the other side. So we're gonna go back and forth a few times. So I'm now balancing on my right side, left side, I mean. Right knee opens out, goes back, scoops in. It's a little bit behind me right here. I'm feeling some hip extension work into the midline and out. Start small and get bigger as you go based on where you want to challenge this active range of mobility. And letting that side go. So I'm doing about six or eight rotations. Switching back to my other leg, let's go the opposite direction. So two knees start together. I think about my knee going behind me, right? You're gonna feel a lot of hamstring glute work right there. Knee goes out to the side. Hip fold, knee comes into the midline to really slide right by my other thigh to go back behind me. Again, start small. Check into any other tension patterns happening anywhere else. And after 6, leg shake. You're gonna be getting some heat in your standing leg too, for sure. All those stabilizers giving you lots of love. All right, standing on your other leg, knee goes back. Knee moves out. Hip fold, knee moves forward. Slide your knee by your other thigh and circle out. And then letting that go. All right, so in that exercise, we were constraining the pelvis, really emphasizing only motion around the joint. Let's come back to your other leg. Let's do this one with the knee moving forward and allow your pelvis to follow now, right? So as my knee goes out to the side, and allow my pelvis to rotate on my standing leg. I have to think about this as opening a door. right? So we're basically allowing movement of our pelvis now on our standing legs. We're getting motion in both hips. You're getting motion in the hip that you're emphasizing the circle, but you're allowing now the other hip to rotate as well on the standing leg. And you can let this turn in to all kinds of different explorations if you'd like. Challenge yourself. If you fall off your leg like I just did, this is good, right? This is good. Controlled instability. It's a great way to challenge our brain and our motor control. All right, let's do the other side. So you might get started. Okay, here's my hip. I'm gonna let my hip now, or your up leg hip, and then let your pelvis start sequencing. And this is what happens in life more often, right, than having one joint in motion. And on your standing leg, keep checking into the relationship between your knee and your foot, because if you can negotiate where your knee and your foot are in space, you're going to have better rootedness from the base up, right? So if I can go, oh, starting to feel a little unstable there. Okay, what happens if I bring my knee out more towards my little toe? Or now as my knee comes in, well, maybe I need to pull my knee back in, right? This dynamic relationship of the rootedness of your standing leg. Yes, wonderful practices, everyone. All right, when you're ready, letting that go. A 30-second window of restoration here. In somatic groundwork, one of the things that we do in practice is we continue to return back to ease, return back to that underlying yield, return back to relationship. Right, so we give ourselves some challenges, we do some studies, and then we come back. This constant cycle. All right, we did this last class. So we're going to do a wide-legged bend. So taking your feet out to the side and to whatever external rotation is appropriate for you. Seeing where I am here, I'm getting confused. Okay, there we go. And bending, right? Simple bending, verticality. Now let's do 10 of these, but let's use an eccentric tempo. So we're gonna go down 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, push up in 1. Okay, I'll count that one more time for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, up in 1. 8 more just like that. Counting it for yourself. Now, as you're doing this, make adjustments as you go. This is a really good tempo to make those subtle micro movements, weight shifts, rotation changes, dissolving tension patterns that really aren't helpful or supportive. Hands could be on hips, hands could be on shoulders, hands could be behind head. Hands could be crossed over like this. Hands could be wide and expansive, easy dangling at your side. Hands could be moving, arms could be moving while you're in this bending practice as well. In any kind of pattern you choose. And I have 3 more. And once you're done with that, allow your feet to come together if you'd like. Notice what's really activated in your body. Is it quads? Is it inner thighs? Is it something through more your pelvic area? Did you actually notice that there was a lot of tension up in your jaw and chest? Okay, just make a note of that for yourself. Now, I really love coming into lunge from this basic position. So come into my bend, and I'm not going into the full range of motion that I was just in. So I'm maybe like halfway, a little more than halfway in that range. I'm gonna take my right leg, I'm gonna keep the bend in the knee, I'm gonna pivot on my right toe, draw my knee in, face my left leg, perfect lunge. All right, so check it out when you get there. Kickstand, back knees bent at around 90 degrees, front knees bent at around 90 degrees, maybe a little less depending on how low you started. And then open up your back leg. Here's all that hip mobility we were just working with. Place the foot back and straighten. Go the other side. Bend. Keep the knee in the bend. Now for me, it's gonna be my left leg. Pick up the heel, pivot on my toes. There's my kickstand, facing now my right leg. Lunge. Rotate that back leg out. On my toes, place the heel down and stand straight. So go back and forth with this in your own time, maybe 6 times total, right, left, right, left. Bend, pivot, come back, straighten. Bend, pivot, come back, straighten. And once you're done with that, taking 30 seconds or so before we go on to the next progression. Notice the heat in your body now. Notice your heart rate, breathing rate. Okay, so back into the second position. Now let's take this lunge, push to a single leg. Reverse lunge, back to that second bend and stand. Bend, pivot, single leg, reverse lunge, back to your wide bend and stand. Six times. And after you're done with those 6, again, mini interval of rest. Again, tune in to what's tired, what's working, but then how that, sometimes that fatigue can also bring an energy boost to your global body. Okay, so one thing that I'm going to leave class with today in terms of something to play with here, just spend a couple of minutes introducing some of the things I really like about this pattern. When I come up to this single leg, I have the option of actually continuing a full loop. So I bend, lunge, come up, loop out, lunge, loop out, lunge, knee, loop out. And it's essentially like a beginning of a kick pattern. What I recommend that you do though is really stay clear about what range of motion you can support with your hip and to keep the pelvis constrained. Notice how in this pattern, you're really in your verticality. So as this lunge comes in, I'm already thinking about this big arcing pathway I'm going to take. I'm not thinking about the single leg anymore. I'm thinking knee forward and out, Knee forward and out. Now, of course, I'm going through a single leg, but I've already warmed that up, so to speak, right? So now I'm going to play with this expression. Beautiful. Yeah. Okay, go ahead and try the other side. Just doing a few of these on each side. Okay, so one more for each side, which is essentially the opposite loop. And where I'm going to actually guide this one from is from the single leg position, taking the toe back behind you and spiraling there. Very different. So back behind, and then I'm going to pull the knee forward, back behind, knee comes around the arc that we just carved, but in the other direction. Now, I love this moment because there's a way of being able to work with the foot. So I'm in my single leg, I'm bending, reaching my toe back, finding my toe, I get to articulate that whole relationship with my foot, rebound out of it, big loop. So we start from the single leg, take my leg back behind me, find my kickstand there, rotate myself through second, and then draw my knee. Think about this as a body half, if you'd like. You could bring your whole body around with you. I can make this a whole body half exploration. Yes. Beautiful. All right, coming out of that. Take a few breaths here standing, settling. And then if it's appropriate for you and your body's asking for it, come all the way back to the ground and we'll end in yielding on the floor. If you'd rather stay standing, you can also do a standing yield practice. I'm gonna hold the space here for 2 minutes of settling, yielding, returning back to stillness. Also consider this a version of cooling down. Tracking the change of rhythms in your body. I'm going to close class today from this place. It's about a minute before the hour, just so you know. And I encourage you to take the time you need to finish your practice. And then if you have that extra 5 minutes to do some writing and reflection, if that's a good practice for your personal evolution. So I'm going to be closing Zoom. Thank you so much for joining me for Somatic Groundwork. So love moving with you.